Hello knitters, this is Jessica, the Lefty Knitter with Knit Chats. I'm going to show you today a few tips and tricks on casting on in the round with double point needles. I am going to be using the German longtail cast on, which has a knit and purl sequencing to the cast on. It offers a nice stretchy cast on, but it doesn't warp, so it still keeps the body. You'll need double point needles, your yarn, and a marker for in the round if you should so desire. I'm going to cast on about 80 stitches over 4 needles, and I will cast on actually an extra, and I will show you how to join in the round. So I put my tail yarn over my thumb and my working yarn over my index finger. The working yarn is the one that goes to the ball of yarn. Make sure that your tail is long enough. I'm not going to teach you how to estimate for your tail right now. So holding your yarn as if it's a slingshot, I'm going to put my first double point needle, push everything below, put my first double point needle under the slingshot part, and I'm going to hold it firm with my finger, and then I'm going to go around the thumb, over the index finger yarn, and through that hole, through the top. And then I'm going to cinch it, but not, it's going to slide easily. All right, so I worked as if to knit. You'll always start with 2 stitches, but this won't be here at the end, and I will show you why. So now you want to take your thumb away from long tail cast on. You want to take your thumb and put it underneath. Okay, so now we're going to take this inside yarn and we're going to go over the index finger yarn and back up through and cinch it down. And see how it's there, but it's not too tight. There's still a little space. Slides easily. This is what we're going for. So again, with the long tail, around the thumb, around the index finger, and down through. And now we're going to switch the thumb. We're going to go to the inside, over the index, and up through. Again, around the outside, index, down through, switch the thumb, inside, around the index, and up through. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and finish casting on my stitches. Soon I will show you how to join the second needle without having a gap. Now, what will it look like if I accidentally, maybe I forget to switch my thumb, and I just do the long tail one and another long tail one? Look how it's different. What if I do a third in a row? Look how the cast on is different. So we know by this purl bump that this stitch is correct, right? But here, the transition from this first one to the second one is different. So to fix that, you can go ahead and pull that off, and then pull this one off as well. Set up like long tail cast on, but then switch your thumb. This way you don't have to start all over. That's frustrating if you have to start all over too many times. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. All right, it's time for the next needle. So what I do to introduce the next needle is I put them right next to one another so I can hold them firmly. But this new one is sticking out just a little farther than the other one so that I catch the yarn with it. It helps if you put your index finger over top to stabilize, and then I've got it held, you know, wrapped with my other, with at least one finger to stabilize it. All right, so we're gonna do a German tail, a regular long tail cast on stitch first, the knit one. All right, it's on there. You can cinch it just a little extra if you want, but not too much. It still needs to slip. Switch your thumb. And you can wiggle it back and forth to make it consistent. And just keep casting on. You can drop this if you want. It'll be nicely there. So then I'm ready to add my third needle here. What I do to make sure that the spaces in between all of my cast-ons are consistent is I place my loop that comes from my index finger. It goes over the needle, so I tend to place it right next to the other one and make sure that the index finger yarn is firm on the needle, like it doesn't have any slack left to it. And then it leaves you to pull the slack on the thumb only instead of wiggling back and forth. Sometimes I still mess up on it because, you know, I'm human, but it really does help an awful lot to keep that index finger yarn short as you're casting on, so that you don't have to wiggle back and forth and get inconsistent stitches. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. And a new needle is to be on. We have, not counting this one's going to be my extra stitch, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Now to join in the round. It's going to be noisy. Okay, so when joining in the round, you have your stitches. You want to make sure that none of them are, none of your double points are twisted. You can hang them up and they won't really spin, and that helps to know that they aren't twisted. But the stitches will all look the same against one another on both sides. That's a really good way to know. So before we place our stitch marker, what we're going to do is, this is needle number 4 because it's the last one. This is needle number 1 because it's the first one. It's really not that important, but it is important to kind of familiarize yourself. We're slipping the stitches close to the ends. Please. And then what we're going to do is I am going to slip the first stitch to my last needle. And then I am going to slip my last stitch over that first stitch and off the needles completely. And then I'm going to take both yarns and wiggle them back and forth for the tail. The tail yarn and the working yarn, wiggle them back and forth to cinch them up. And you'll want to cinch them up after you finish your knitting as well. So this is joined in the round successfully. I'm adding my stitch marker. And now, oh, wrong way. I'm doing it for lefty knitting. There. Now we can begin knitting in the round. So first thing, let's knit. And then we will purl. All right, so now I have 4 on this needle, and I probably want to introduce another needle. What I'm going to do is, instead of grabbing another needle and moving on, which would create the possibility of laddering between stitches, not always, depends on your tension, but to prevent laddering, I am going to take these 2 stitches back. I'm going to use the blunt side because I want the sharp side for knitting. Back off that needle that I just worked on. And then, oh my, it's so loud. I am so sorry. And then I'm going to go ahead and knit on. Now that it's time to switch needles, I am going to knit 2 more, or probably 4 more, of these stitches from the next needle. This will be needle number 3. No, needle number 2. Okay, so there's 1. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I've worked 4 extra stitches off the next needle to prevent laddering, and now I'm going to slip those stitches to the next empty needle. and then slip it for working. So then I knit. Okay, we're ready to join another needle. This will be the last time I will show it. So I've knit my 20. I'm going to go ahead and knit 4 more from the next needle. All right, and then I'm going to switch these 4 stitches. I'm going to slip them to the next working needle. And looking at all my stitches, it probably would have been a better idea if I would have started out with a purl instead of a knit. I think they would match up with the cast on better. They look very seed stitch like with the cast on. So I would begin with a purl instead of a knit. I hope you find this helpful. Happy knitting!